After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending immense greetings and salutations upon the final Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. We stopped on the verse from Surah Maryam, verses 59 and 60, which will be the basis of today's discussion. فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا. There came after them a group of people who began to follow their desires and abandon the prayers, till eventually are going to be thrown into the valley in Jahannam, or pit inside Jahannam. And as for today's hadith that we find related to this, of abandoning the prayers that we find, إِنَّ بَيْنَ الرَّجُلِ وَبَيْنَ الشِّرْكِ وَالْكُفْرِ تَرْكُ الصَّلَاةِ. Between a person's iman, the faith, and a fine line between that and shirk, and going into disbelief, is the abandoning of one's prayers. And thus we want to make this link between following one's desires, temptations and lusts, leads towards disobedience, leads forward beyond that towards rejection and even abandoning one's faith or leaving the prayer. That is a deep inner meaning of this passage, this Quran and this hadith. Because sometimes people think that the following of desires or making sins doesn't really have an impact on major principles of faith. But the Quran goes and mentions the opposite, that the more that the person begins to follow their desires, or their desires overcome them and makes them leave core practices of Islam. And we can see around us how many possibly young Muslims that the following of their lust and their desires and shahawat that we find, it makes them to stay away from the prayer, till eventually abandoning the prayer, giving up the prayer. And for some of them, may Allah forbid, even questioning al-Islam. So we should be wary of letting desires overcome us. We mentioned in the previous khutbah that desires, lust and desires can be an ilah, can be a deity for the individual. They don't begin to control their lust and their desires. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. The soul has this inclination at times to go towards bad practices at times, except for the soul which has the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompassed or thrown down upon that soul. And thus we find that the real impact of Salah, if we study the Quran in great detail, it removes desires, it breaks desires. The continuous, repetitious practice of coming to the masjid, reading one's salawat, coming to the masajid, as-salah ba'da salah. The real impact of that salah should break the desires, break the temptations. Doesn't give the person the time and the scope to get trapped into the desires that the masses of people are involved in. As the Quran mentions inside Surah Al-Ankabut, أُتْلُ مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ. Recite from the book that which has been sent down upon you. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ. هنا إشارتين. Strengthen yourself while reciting the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ, and establish the prayer. That's what Shaykh Murtaza كان يقول, used to say, if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to speak to you, then read the Quran. That's how the person should be engaged with the Quran. The Quran is speaking directly to me, directly to you. And if you want to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, establish the prayer. Because you are between the two hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is facing you as long as you continue to face Allah. But if your heart turns away, then Allah turns away from that individual. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. The end of the juz there that we find at the beginning of the 20th, end of the 20th juz. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explicitly mentions that as-salah tanha, it prevents you, takes you away from al-fawahish, from illicit practices. Al-fahisha wal-munkar takes you away from that. This should be the impact of the salah upon the individual. That every time they pray, they reassess themselves. That what is the impact of the salah inside my life? As-salah ila as-salah, wal-jum'ah ila al-jum'ah, wa Ramadan ila Ramadan. And you find the prophetic tradition. One prayer to another prayer. One yawm al-jum'ah ila al-jum'ati, to another Jum'ah, one Ramadan to another Ramadan. Kaffaratun becomes an expiation for the individual as long as they stay away from the minor sins. This that Salah, as ulama mentioned, the impact of one prayer leads to the other Salah. The impact of one Yawm al-Jum'ah leads to the following Jum'ah, whereby the person may begin to weaken or worldly things take over them. But Yawm al-Jum'ah, another Salah, awakens the individual. And likewise Ramadan, these 29, 30 days, it's just like a blinking of an eye. Look how many people have returned back to their normal life. The impact of Ramadan travels all the way to the following Sha'ban, whereby the human begins to weaken or lose some element of focus towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ramadan enters once again. But we can see the state of the Muslim Ummah. There's nothing hidden about it. That people will rejoice. They're rejoicing. In what terms? That Ramadan is gone, now we return back. But a person should be saddened that Ramadan has gone. Look at all of us, we can imagine just a blinking of an eye, a few days just went by, these days were completed, that's the end of it. And that is in essence the reality of a human being's life. It's just a blinking of an eye that all of us can reflect. That how many days, how many years of our life have just gone by. But we still find no impact of as-salah. And may Allah forbid some Muslims begin to look at other elements of spirituality. You know, it's very weird that people look at yoga practices, meditation. How can a Muslim look at other elements of finding serenity, finding peace, finding tranquility? And how dare a Muslim even express something like this when Salah is there? As we find in the Salah tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar, takes away from evil things. Or before that we mentioned that establishing the prayer, وَلَا ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَلَا ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ وَقَدْ فُسِّرَ ذِكْرُ اللَّهُ هُنَا بِمَعْنَى الصَّلَاةِ. The greatest thing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-salah. That is the greatest thing. That is the greatest element of spirituality that a person can find inside their life. Likewise the end of Surah Al-Munafiqun. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُلْهِكُمْ أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Don't let your children and your wealth divert you away from the dhikr of Allah. Once again, ulama tafsir mentioned dhikrullah huna bima'na as-salah. Even the halal things, don't let your family members, your children, your wealth, your property, don't let them derail you, take you away from establishing as-salah. فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Those are the losing individuals. They don't focus upon the as-salah. So here, dhikrullah, the greatest dhikr of Allah is as-salah. And the strange thing of these ayat about not letting your children divert you, etc., is the end of Surah Al-Munafiqun, the end of the descriptive nature of the hypocrites. This in itself should awaken the individual. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concluding this surah speaking about characteristics of Al-Munafiqun? Why does He subhanahu wa ta'ala end by speaking about salah or spending one's wealth? And like as we mentioned many times, why does the Quran begin the first 12 after the beginning speaking about the believers, 3 or 4 ayat, 2 or 3 ayat about disbelievers, then a page or so, 11, 12 ayat speaking about al-munafiqun. As Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya wrote a whole risala, Sifatul Munafiqeen. Why does the Quran enter speaking about hypocrites and highlight these are the characteristics? Is it abathan? Is it just play and amusement? A person just looks at that? La. Al-ibra bi'umum al-lafzi, la bi khusus al-sabab. A Muslim takes the essence from the revelation, the generality of the words, not from the specifics that this refers to Ahlul Kitab, or Al-Yahud, or Al-Nasara, or Al-Dalleen. La. Muslim reads the Quran and this is speaking to me. I need to be wary. I need to be worried that these characteristics don't fall into me. Likewise Allah mentioned, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Musa alayhi salam, when Musa made that journey, when Allah said to him, إِنَّنِي أَنَّ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. I'm the one and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You believe in me, then what should you do? وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. Establish the salah to remember me. To remember whom? To remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as-salah is the key factor. The beginning and the end of the believing individual. And thus we find that the state of our prayers. Look how the Quran describes the state of maybe the masses of people. Because some people, they do know they have to establish their prayer. But what is the quality of that salah? What is the quality of that obedience? Allah mentions that Surah An-Nisa, وَإِذَا قَامُوا لِلصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُ النَّاسَ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. They establish the prayer, قاموا كسالى. They stand in the prayer in a state of laziness. يراؤون الناس. So the books may be ticked off that so and so has established a prayer, so and so has come to the masjid. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the deeper meaning, the inner meaning. وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. So once they stand there, Allah knows. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. Allah knows what the eyes try to conceal and what the heart tries to hide. So Allah talks deep into the heart of the individual. That Allah knows how many individuals are really remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whilst they're standing inside as-salah. And as a side point, if you look at Surah An-Nisa, كم من الآيات تتحدث عن الصلاة. How many ayat inside Surah An-Nisa that speak about as-salah? Whether it be يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون. Or you believe, don't come to salah while in a state of intoxication, because intoxications, it takes you away from as-salah. Just as we began with lust and desires inside Surah Al-Ma'idah verses number 1991 that we find. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا, or you believe, stay in the as-salah, or stay away from al-khamr wal-maysir, ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون. Stay away from it, all these filthy practices of the throwing of divine arrows, sacrificing on the altars the stones, and stay away from al-khamr, from drinking, because indeed you find that drinking, alcohol and gambling, which are combined together, it takes you away from as-salah. That's what Allah mentioned categorically. These things take anything that intoxicates the mind, drugs that we find, anything that clouds the mind, because al-khamr ma khab al-aql. Khamr is anything, yughatti ar-ra's, anything that shrouds the mind. It takes away your faculties of being able to perceive and to understand. It's classified as khamr. But you know, some Muslims, they like to be technical. They like to atala'ub bi-sharia. They like to play with the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And say, but when I take intoxicants, it doesn't overcome my mind. And it doesn't affect me. Al-hadith fi Sahih Muslim. Ma askara kathiruhu fa qaliluhu haram. Whatever intoxicates you in large amounts is forbidden in small amounts. The sharia doesn't make this distinction, that it doesn't affect me personally, so now I can take haram substance, I can do haram, I can look at strange women, I can speak to strange women because it doesn't affect me. That's not the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's tala'ub bid-deen. That's playing with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Maqasid al-sharia are clear. This is the intent of the Islamic law. It doesn't look at a personal entity, a personal identity, that you are free. There's only one individual that was free from that. That was the Prophet ﷺ. He had that freedom that was given to him, because he was the best of bashar, the best of individuals, the most purified of individuals, the most one who feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most. So some element of leniency was given to the Prophet ﷺ in certain matters, that he could carry out certain things that were not allowed for the rest of this Muslim ummah to do. But we find ourselves the opposite. Tala'ub bil-sharia, that we play with the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's become common practice, unfortunately. Even as-salah, yura'un an-nas. How many people, we don't want to discuss a political agenda, just to show the world that I'm praying, to be televised, to be shown. A hadith in Sahih Bukhari, Muslim that I find, where a dispute took place. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that, leave these people alone. لَعَلَّهُمْ يُصَلُّونَ. Perhaps they pray. What did Khalid ibn Walid say? وَكَمْ مِن مُصَلٍّ يَقُولُ بِلِسَانِهِ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قَلْبِهِ. That's what Khalid ibn Walid said when they wanted to take out these hypocritical individuals. He said to the Prophet ﷺ, how many people they pray? They say with their tongue that which doesn't exist inside their heart. You know, some Muslims, they claim to be intelligent individuals. They want to show the world, because they know that al-kufr al-bawaha, the clear kufr is abandoning the salah, tarkus salah. So somewhere along the line, they need to show the world that we do offer the prayers. Because if we abandon the prayers, we show that we don't pray, it becomes dangerous. It becomes open kufr. And we're going to discuss that leaving the prayers is something that you find is so dangerous. Takes you out the fold of Islam. And a great discussion begins to take place about what is the punishment of such individuals. Likewise in such Surah At-Tawbah that we find. وَلَا يَأْتُونَ الصَّلَاةَ إِلَّا وَهُمْ كُسَالَى وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا وَهُمْ كَارِهُونَ. In such Surah At-Tawbah, once again, Sifatul Munafiqeen. Great discussion in such Surah At-Tawbah, speaking about the believing men, the believing women, the hypocritical men, the hypocritical women. When they establish as-salah, إِلَّا وَهُمْ كُسَالَى. They come to prayer once again in a state of laziness. And they only spend because they're forced to. They're compelled to. They don't really want to spend their money. But once again, to show the people, to show the world, to show everyone. These are sifat of al-munafiqeen that we find. Likewise, we go back to Surah An-Nisa. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Prayer has been prescribed for believers at set times. You don't pray when it suits you. This is a big phenomenon that we find inside the West. I pray when I find time. This is a challenge of living in this environment. That you have to establish prayer at the right time to the best of your ability. Maybe occasionally, once in a week, person may be delayed, meaning it doesn't go outside the time of prayer, but they still offer their prayer. But if it becomes habitual in your life, that every single day you pray your prayer right at the end, or you pray when it suits you, or when you feel like praying it, هذا ضعف الإيمان, ضعف العلاقة مع بالله سبحانه وتعالى, weakness of relationship, attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you fit in salah whenever it suits you. No, the whole dunya needs to stop. The Prophet ﷺ, no one was busier than him. No one was a more busier leader than him. And so many people to meet, to see, family members, relatives, world politics, enemies, friends, war, peace, treaties. No one is more busy than him. But when time waqtu salah, everything would stop. The whole world would come to a standstill, and he would go and meet his Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet we think that we're so busy, we're so engaged in so many different things, that maybe akhir salah, lead salah to another moment, which becomes dangerous if it becomes habitual for the individual to have such a practice. And thus we find that as-salah throughout the Quran, min al-bidayah ila al-nihayah, from the beginning to the end, the Quran is nothing but replete with ayat speaking about as-salah. Some up to 60 to 85 times we look at the various derivatives inside the Quran speaking about as-salah. Right in the beginning Allah mentions الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. Those who believe in the unseen. Those who believe in the unseen. أول صفة لهم يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. They establish the prayer. Al-ishara, that al-ghayb is unseen. The only way to get the keys of the unseen, to get the reward of the unseen, is to do what inside your life? Is to establish the prayer. You're not going to get Jannah, because Al-Jannah is min al-ghaybiyat. Al-Jannah is from the unseen affairs. Hatta al-kalima Jannah that you find lughatan is something which is hidden, concealed. It's a forest, it's bushes, something you have to enter through it, to enter inside it. That's why you find Janeenul Mar'ah, the womb of the mother is called Janeen. Why? The child is hidden with these layers. Jannah is hidden, Jannah is unseen. The only way to enter into Jannah is via as-salah. As we find in some narrations, Miftah Jannah as-salah. The key to paradise is as-salah. That is the key that will help the individual to enter into paradise. Likewise, we find, continuing the journey inside Surah Al-Baqarah, وَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ آتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yukhatib Bani Israel, speaks to Bani Israel, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. Allah doesn't say وَأَدُّوا الصَّلَاةَ, just like some of us, just carry out the salah, or at least I pray, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. Establish the prayer from the beginning to the middle to the end, and وَحَتَّى بَعْدَ الصَّلَاةِ تُحَافِظْ حَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ. Guard your prayers, guard them. Just even before salah, your preparation, psychologically, mentally. Not just walk into the masjid and just raise your hands and just start offering salah. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself that you're now going to enter into a salah. That's why you find tahiyyatul masjid, entering into the masjid, reading 2 raka'at of prayer. As ulama of tazkiyah mentioned, it sets the mindset, programs the mind, and now a person is entered into the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything should be taken away. What takbir? Takbiratul ihram. The takbir of making everything haram. When you say Allahu Akbar, that everything goes out of your mind. Everything escapes your mind. Every thought comes out of your mind. But may Allah forbid, most of us are the opposite. Every thought comes into the mind. As soon as they say Allahu Akbar, everything they want to remember, everything they want to organize, everything they want to do, every thought comes inside it. Why? Because of weakness of understanding the impact of salah inside our lives. Thus we find, وَاسْتَعِينُوا وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. Bani Israel, bow down with those who bow down. Ulama have highlighted, based on just this one verse, وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ أَحْمِيَةُ الصَّلَاةِ بِالْجَمَاعَةِ. To establish the prayer in jama'ah, in congregation. حتى بعض الفقهاء قال أنه فرض. Some of the fuqaha mentioned that to pray salah in jama'ah is an obligation. If a person does it outside of the congregation, their salah is invalidated. It's a minor view, but just to let us know how fuqaha are intricate in discussing affairs. But the least that we can say, it is highly, highly recommended for a person to pray. The highest level is to pray their salah in the masjid, in jama'ah, in congregation. Person should exert themselves to do that. In a Muslim country, they have no excuse. For them, you can go to such a degree to say it's obligatory for them, because they're living in an Islamic environment where they hear the adhan, they hear the call, and the facility is made for them to come to the prayer. They have to respond to that. Maybe we could have a slight excuse. We don't hear the adhan, or we're living in another environment. But even and highly, highly recommended for a person to begin their day with Salatul Fajr bil jama'ati fil masjid. Begin their day with jama'ah inside the masjid, not jama'ah inside one's room, with one's family members, with one's friends. That's what we find common practice become now. Every other day, that just pray jama'ah. Technicalities. وَارْكَوْا مَا رَاقِعِينَ. Fuqaha mentioned, what is the whole point of establishing Masajidullah? Establishing the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody's free to pray in any jama'ah whenever they want. Whenever they feel like praying. This is only out of necessity. Person has no choice that they go and pray in another jama'ah if they miss the masjid. وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. Bow down with those individuals who offer the prayer. Then again inside Surah Al-Baqarah, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. شيء عجيب. Al-isti'ana bis-salati was-sabr. You know, people want to talk about lofty goals and aspirations and rectifying the world around us. Look at manhajul Quran. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Seek aid and assistance via patience. As-salah. As-salah is what strengthens the individual. As-salah makes the personality be powerful, because their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what will give success to this Muslim ummah. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. This is going to be very harsh, very difficult, very burdensome. Except for whom? Those who are submissive, those who have khushu' inside their salah. That's why later inside Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah begins by mentioning قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those are the successful individuals. That's success. The worldly success is something good, but the benchmark for a Muslim is as-salah. Come in, Muslimin, how many amongst Muslims, they boast about their credentials, they boast about this, boast about that. Ma yusallun. They may be good individuals, they may be good personalities, they might be good people, but alaqa ma'allah, ma indam alaqa ma'allah. Ma yusallun. They're good to people. Why are you not good to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why are you worried about the people, but your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is flawed? Or we go a step further, this is what leads to kufr, that some of them think they're highly educated. We don't need deen. We don't need salah. We don't need spirituality. I'm my own person, my own self. I don't need God. I don't need religion inside my life. Quran speaks about this manhaj. When it said to Shu'aib alayhi salam, when it said to him, does your prayer tell us to live our life, to do our personal dealings, our business transactions? You remain where? Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like we find today, that people said, you Muslims, keep your salah inside the masjid. Don't bring salah into the public domain. How salah teaches you how to live life. It doesn't discuss how to live life. Salah does teach you how to live life. It teaches you how to discipline yourself, how to organize yourself. What will give people success? Those are the successful individuals who've established as-salah, who are observant towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, we continue inside Surah Al-Baqarah, some 12 different occasions inside there, speaking about as-salah, the impact of salah. And obviously we don't have time to go through the whole of the Quran to mention all the different verses which speak about salah, but we come to the end of the Quran, as we mentioned, from the beginning to the end. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. Only place inside the Quran, woe to those individuals who offer the prayer. How is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving this warning? Woe to those individuals who offer the prayer. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Those who either delay their prayers, يُؤَخِّرُونَ الصَّلَاةِ, who delay their prayers right to the end, or pray after the end time. Oh, the other qawl which is mentioned, they abandon the prayer. And that's as we mentioned, that these verses inside Surah Maryam, to see the relationship of those individuals who abandon the prayer, because waylun, as ulama tafasir mentioned, waylun wadin fi jahannam. Wail, one meaning of wail is not just destruction or punishment or torture. It's been described that wail is from amongst one of the valleys in Jahannam, which is given the title of Ghayya. that they're going to be thrown inside the evil pit, inside Jahannam, for those individuals. Thus we find that if we study this verse inside Surah Maryam, as we began with, فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَعْدَاءُ الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا. Let's study the tafsir of this verse. Imam Shaqiti, Sahib Adwa al-Bayan, has some 20 odd pages on this one verse, discussing in intricate detail about as-salah, the impact of salah. What does it mean to abandon the prayer? And what does it mean, the punishment for those individuals who abandon the prayer? Adwa as-salah. What does it mean that they waste their prayers? I mean, aqwal, we find ta'khiruha an waqtiha, that not to offer the prayer at its right time is the interpretation given by Ibn Mas'ud, and likewise Imam Mujahid, the student of Ibn Abbas. وهذا رأي Imam al-Qurtubi as well. That for those individuals, adwa as-salah, those who delay their prayers. وقد قيل الإخلال بشروطها, to be deficient inside its prerequisites and its conditions, and to offer the prayer appropriately. وَقَدْ قِيلْ جَحَدَ وُجُوبُهَا, person rejects his obligation. We find this, unfortunately, so-called Muslim thinkers and developed individuals, that they think that as-salah is not something important to carry out inside their lives. Likewise, we find إِدَعْتُهَا فِي غَيْرِ الْجَمَاعَاتِ, to waste it, not to come and pray inside the jama'at. Another qawl which is mentioned is beautification of the masajid, to be worried about its intricate designs and details. And Imam Shaqiti mentions all these aqwal are acceptable. All this leads to waste in the prayer. All you worry about is tazeen masajid. It's good to have a beautiful masjid, but is that the intent of salah? Just to be worried about the external dome, the external factors, the internal beauty, the chandeliers, the carpet, the environment. That's not the inner meaning of a salah. All this put together means adwa as-salah, that a person delays their prayer, walks away from the prayer, rejects their prayer, doesn't focus upon their prayers. They came for after min ba'dim khalfun. Who are these people that the Quran is speaking about who came after them? Here, ulama of tafsir, they mentioned either it's al-Yahud or Nasara, that they abandon the prayer, and as we mentioned, no harm in mentioning, could be any individual who follows the same thought. And a strange statement is mentioned. Imam Shaqiti mentioned, hum ahlul gharb, they're the Western people. We could take that literally. When he's speaking about the west of the Islamic Empire, or we take it literally today, the gharb, the Western world around us. Yakun ishara is a sign that most people inside the West, they do adwa as-salah. They do waste their prayers. They do squander their prayers. They do lose focus towards their prayers. وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ, they begin to follow their lust and their desires. Ali radiallahu anhu mentions of aqwal, what is following their lust and their desires. To worry once again about beautiful buildings, worried about what they drive and what their riding beast is, to worried about their clothing, how good it looks. This is all shahawat, to follow their lust and their desire. That's all that they're worried about. We're not saying it's haram to dress well and look well, but we can see how it overcomes certain individuals. That's all that their life is based upon. But the spirituality is hollow within. It's hollow within, that they don't focus upon the internal factors of their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ghayya, we find, as we mentioned, sharran, that the evil will be given to these individuals, or they'll be misguided. Or as we mentioned, will be wadin fi jahannam min qayh, that the pus and the blood of the people of Jahannam, that's what ghay is. That this is where the pit that people will be throwing who don't establish their prayers. That's why in some narrations, inna ghayyan wadin fi Jahannam. Even the hadith is da'if, but some ulama mention that because speak about the unseen affairs. It can go back to the Prophet ﷺ speaking about something that the companions can't speak from their own mind. That ghay is a valley inside Jahannam given to those individuals. And thus we find that amma al-masail that ulama begin to discuss, just to awaken us, to begin to help us to think about the importance of trying not to. Ulama, ajma' ulama, anna tariq as-salah al-jahil li wujubiha kafir. Person who leaves the prayer and rejects its obligation that the person has to pray, ajma' ulama in consensus, fahuwa kafir. Anybody who doesn't pray and rejects the authenticity of prayer, questions the prayer, that why has prayer been prescribed, we don't need to pray, then that person is a disbelieving individual. Below that we find اختلف العلماء تارك الصلاة عمدا أو تهاونا, a person who leaves the prayer intentionally or out of laziness, but recognizes they need to pray. What are the aqwal of the ulama regarding this? They mention al-hal wa kafir or Muslim. A great debate begins to take place. Is he a believer or a disbeliever? is he supposed to be killed as a disbeliever or one who rejects the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Imam Shankiti goes to the view, the person who leaves prayer out of laziness, فَهُوَ كَافِرٌ, is a disbelieving individual. Even though there's adillah to prove against that, but this is the view he takes after narrating all the different evidences. Amongst evidences that he narrates that a person who doesn't pray out of laziness, but accepts that they need to pray. He mentioned the hadith we began with, إِنَّ بَيْنَ الرَّجُلِ وَبَيْنَ الشِّرْكِ وَالْكُفْرِ تَرْكُ الصَّلَاةِ. Between a person's belief and shirk and disbelief is as-salah, tarku salah. Person leaves the salah, that's it. There's no need for discussion about it. It's apparent of this individual. If you really believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why are you abandoning the prayer? Why are you forsaking the prayer? Why are you not praying? الْعَهْدُ الَّذِي بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ الصَّلَاةُ فَمَنْ تَرَكَهَا فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. The covenant, the distinction between us and them is as-salah. Whoever abandons the prayer, فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. Many ulama take it linguistically, take it openly. That person is a disbelieving individual who breaks the covenant of not establishing the prayer. Likewise, فَإِنْ كَانَ أَصْحَابُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ لَا يَرَوْنَ شَيْئًا فِي الْأَعْمَالِ مِنْ أَعْمَالِ تَرْكُهُ كَالْكُفْرِ غَيْرَ الصَّلَاةِ. There was nothing that the companions were united upon. Nothing that were united upon except for if a person who leaves the salah, فَهُوَ كَافِرٌ. أَجْمَعَ الصَّحَابَةِ. That you very rarely find a consensus of the companions referring to something. But they classified anybody who leaves the prayer is to be classified as a disbelieving individual. Likewise, مَنْ حَافَظَ عَلَيْهَا كَانَ لَهُ نُورًا وَبُرْهَانًا وَنَجَاةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. In the hadith Muslim, Imam Ahmad, that we find, whoever preserves the prayer, guards it, for that individual will be nur, wa burhan, wa najatan. It will be a source of light, evidence and success on the day of judgment. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحَافِظْ عَلَيْهَا. Whoever doesn't guard it will be with Ubay bin Khalaf, will be with Haman, will be with Fir'aun. That's why Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya wrote a whole book, Hukum Tariq Salah, the ruling of the one who abandons the prayer, based on this one hadith. It's on Muslim, Imam Ahmad, to prove that person leaves the prayer, who abandons the prayer, will be with Rusul Kafara, will be with the leaders of the disbelieving individuals for abandoning the prayer and turning away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And likewise other masail are discussed, qada'u salah. If a person who, liman nasiya, if a person who forgets their prayer for a short span of time, how to make qada that we find, what salah to offer a person missed their salah. But we should be vigilant to understand all these masail, especially qada'u salah. Many people ask this question that for many years I haven't prayed. What is more appropriate to encourage individuals is to become more punctual on your daily prayers and read more extra nawafil. Focus on your sunan. Rather than to have this mathematical approach that some people say, go back and work out for the last 20, 30 years that you haven't prayed. And every time you offer a prayer, then repeat that prayer again for that year, for that time. Even though there are some narrations, but these ahadith are da'if in nature. Or some of them are authentic, but they try to make ta'wil. That means that go back and repeat the prayer again. But what is more appropriate in the sense of that acceptable, especially in the world that we live in at the moment, to make 20, 30 years up of a person's prayer they may have missed, or a few years, we just about become punctual about the daily prayers on a daily basis, and just about offer a sunnah during the day. So then to go and repeat and to work at all those previous prayers that a person has missed becomes something sharp, something difficult upon the individual. Amongst the evidence is the one that can present regarding that one just repents back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and begins to become more punctual towards their prayers and the devotion towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Straight after this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. For those individuals who repent and believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and carry out righteous actions, for these individuals, فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ. Allah will then enter them into paradise. So this is, we can say, a bushra, a glad tidings for those individuals who may have abandoned their prayers, who haven't prayed or returned back towards their prayers. That there's khair for these individuals. فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ. These individuals enter into paradise. And this is a common practice inside the Quran. We look at the end of Surah Al-Furqan, where Allah mentions those individuals who may carry out certain sins. They may carry out. If they do carry them out, فَأُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. That Allah will make tabdeel, will change their bad deeds into good deeds. So there is always an element of encouragement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What has gone past of the individual, the person needs to then rectify themselves. Amma alladhi aslama, as for a person who becomes a Muslim, ulama mentioned categorically that person doesn't need to make up any prayers, because that was a state of disbelief for that individual. No prayers need to be made up. But as soon as they enter into Islam, that's why they need to be vigilant about their prayers and devotion towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah mentioned Jannati adnin allati wa'ada ar-rahmanu ibadahu. Then Allah mentions again, continuing inside Surah Maryam, that Allah has promised paradise for those individuals. This is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from Ar-Rahman, ibadahu, His servants, gives to these individuals, بِالْغَيْبِ إِنَّهُ كَانَ وَعْدَهُ مَأْتِيًّا, who believe in the unseen, just as we began with. Allah promises paradise for those believing, those servants of His, who carry out the practices that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to carry out. This is a promise, إِنَّهُ كَانَ وَعْدَهُ مَأْتِيًّا. It's a promise that will definitely come to pass. مَأْتِيًّا. There's no doubt about this. There's something ati will come for the individual. Allah will give. The person who carries their salawat, focus upon their prayers, Allah will give. As we began with, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, those who believe in the unseen, Allah will give the due reward to those individuals. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيءَ إِيمَانَكُمْ. Allah doesn't let your iman go to waste. Al-iman huna bima'na as-salah. Your salah doesn't go to waste in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one should think that, and I prayed, and nothing was given to me, or no response was given to me, or things become more difficult for me inside my life, whatever it may be. These excuses that we all as human beings represent. That person shouldn't lose hope, shouldn't despair. Person should carry on in their focus and commitment towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, we find some of us fall into the trap that I sin, so I shouldn't pray. This is a great big fallacy. Person shouldn't fall into that trap, because all of us sin, all of us make mistakes. This is one of the biggest snares of the devil, the beast, Iblis, the deception of the devil, that I sin now, don't offer the prayer, miss the prayer, delay the prayer, miss one prayer, miss another prayer, miss coming to Yawm al-Jum'ah, then miss another Jum'ah, then miss totally the prayers. That's what shaitan wants, because this is kufr, that shirk, that leads a person away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person sin needs to come back, revitalize the iman, renew themselves, come back, try and exert to come back to the masjid, come back to the jama'ah, come back to their prayer. Don't think that one sin, now I need to stay away from obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And likewise, you find that some of us individuals, a great shame, but something that we visualize on many occasions, that people will flock to the funeral of an individual, of a loved one. And we've witnessed this personally many times. Many people come to the funeral prayer. And many times we know that in our community it will be after Salatul Dhuhr, the funeral prayer will take place. Well, I can come minan nas, how many people will not pray their Dhuhr, but yet they'll pray the funeral prayer for that individual? Shay'un ajib. How strange is that? They'll stand outside, they'll talk, they'll discuss different affairs, and as soon as the funeral prayer begins, they'll come in and offer the funeral prayer. What kind of iman is this? What kind of belief is this? You know, people say, at least to offer the funeral prayer. The funeral prayer is something only recommended. It's only something recommended in the sense that if some people carry that, that would suffice the community. Look how zealous we are to come to a funeral prayer of a loved one, of a dead individual, of a close friend. That love and affection that we have, that we want to offer that prayer. But the right of Allah belongs before that. It's Salatul Dhuhr. Person doesn't want to offer their prayer, doesn't offer their prayer. This shows that everything in our life is muddled up. Our priorities, what we believe in, and our focus. The first focus should be for the individual. Haqqullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first right is the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's you find, أول شيء ما يحاسب عليه العبد يوم القيامة. The first thing in the Mu'jam al-Tabrani that we find, the first thing the person we ask about on the day of judgment will be as-salah, will be the prayer. That's it. That's the first thing. Everyone places that inside their mind and their heart. That will awaken the soul, worry the individual. Yes, there's many troubles, many problems that we, as a personality, as a community, as a family, as an ummah that we face. There's no doubt. But as we mentioned, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ, seek aid and assistance via the prayer to uplift. That there is going to be success. There's going to be success for this Muslim ummah. Just like we should visualize that success. We should see that success via our own actions. Our salah should make us strong. It should show us the symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even us living in the Western world, person shouldn't feel shy about their faith, about as-salah, ahmiyat to salah, importance of salah. It leads towards goodness. That person should know this is symbol of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Show that person is a believer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make as-salah to become nur lana fi quburina, inside our graves, wa fi hayatina, inside our lives, wa fi akhiratina, inside the akhirah, a day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Makes a form of a nur, a light for us, encompassed around us, becomes a form of protection, comes inside our grave, and says, this individual, just like he preserved me during the daytime, during his life, I'm going to protect this individual. And a person doesn't guard their prayers. We find some other mention that the prayer comes as an evil individual, disfigured individual, wicked individual. Said, who are you? With his foul stench, his foul personality. Or we said, I am your prayers that you wasted and you abandoned. And that's why a person entered inside the grave, for amongst the most elements of punishing of the person inside the grave is tarkus salah. The leaving of prayers leads to punishment inside the grave. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all from that.